All right, before we go to calls, I want to shift gears to another subject. In fact, give me a document cam for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers, please, gentlemen, right here. The federal government, I discovered back in '99, this is in my film Police State 2: The Takeover, was putting deputized local sheriff's deputies under ATF control and having law enforcement semester classes in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, sometimes 6th grade, saying, what's in mommy's medicine cabinet? Do they smoke marijuana? Having them write dossiers on their parents, training them to do this. And now we've got this from the state of Texas, and we went to their website. It's confirmed, the TexasExperience.com, page 63. And this came in an email. We've confirmed that their child was given a 0 because they refused to fill it out in violation of the Fifth Amendment. And it's just the feds ordering school kids. It says every 10 years it's time for Texans to stand up and be counted. Since 1790, the United States has conducted a census of account of each of its citizens. Practice filling out the census form. It says name, place of birth, current address, does your family own or rent where you live, how long have you lived in Texas, how many people are in your family, how many females, how many males, what are their ages, how many rooms are in your house. That's for CPS to see if there's too many people. Oh, we live in an apartment. Oh, you're at risk. Boom. Well, and I've seen them take babies from people that are poor, just for being poor. How is your home heated? Oh, you don't. How many cars does your family own? How many telephones in your home? Is your home a farm? And, this is just incredible. And it even says, sounds pretty nosy, doesn't it? But a census is very important. This information is used for all kinds of purposes. So they're training the kids. I mean, this is, once they set the precedent to make them answer questions, the sky's the limit, Michael Bagnerick.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The census is incredibly invasive, and people need to overcome their nervousness. The outside envelope says the law requires you to fill this out. That's not true. The Constitution requires government to ask, but you are under no obligation to answer it. And I mean, again, if Congress was actually doing something to protect your life, liberty, and property, it would be in your best interest to answer. But since Congress is out of control, the White House is out of control, oh boy, the Supreme Court is way out of control. It really doesn't matter whether you answer that or not. I agree that it's time for Texans to stand up, but I think it's almost time for us to stand up and defend the Alamo again. Well, that's covered. In fact, Rob Dew is making a new trailer for Don't Tread on Me with just the clip of Badneret talking about the line in sand. See if he can grab that, and if we can premiere that in the last segment. Just see if he can put it on a disc and run it over here. Thanks. Bill in Colorado, you're on the air with Michael Bagnerick. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Alex. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm excellent. Thanks,
Bill. I have a question about the formation of the Constitution, and I was curious as to who was in charge of America after the Declaration of Independence and prior to the Constitution?
Well, the people who were fighting the revolution were kind of in charge.
It was the Continental Congress out of Philadelphia.
And they wrote the Articles of the Articles of Confederation. I'm sorry. That was the first Constitution. All federal laws had to be passed unanimously by all 13 states. If we were still under the Articles of Confederation, you'd understand how small the government would be, because you'd need all 50 states to be unanimous. The Constitution was a deviation from what we had. The Constitution was ratified by only 9 out of 13 states, and it centralized the government.
Yeah, and people act like this is a conspiracy. They have seminars where they go, exposing the Constitution, the tyranny. They almost lost the government over it. That's why the Bill of Rights was created as a checkmate to supersede any expansion of federal power, and that's the Federalist Papers. People think that federalism means the federal government runs things. No, it means the opposite. Michael Bagnerick.
Absolutely. Alexander Hamilton's group. Alexander Hamilton was a monarchist. His group of people were nationalists. Thomas Jefferson's people were truly federalist, but Alexander Hamilton switched switched the labels, called his own group Federalists so he'd get support, and called Jefferson's group Anti-Federalists to generate hostility towards that group. So he was a spin doctor of his time.
But he got dealt with.
He did, in a duel.
Let's go ahead and talk to Howard in Philly. Howard, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, Michael. You answered my question about the 14th Amendment. I was going to bring that up. But I still want to talk about something in the 14th Amendment that I think is important to note. The word United States citizen can be found in the Constitution, so it existed prior to the 14th Amendment. I do believe that prior to the 14th Amendment...
Go ahead.
I do believe that prior to the 14th Amendment, we were state citizens, just like Richard McDonald used to say years and years ago.
No, that's why the 17th Amendment changed that to where the senators are popularly elected instead of being creatures of the state, where the elected legislature then votes to appoint the senator. They could I remember reading about, Davy Crockett and people being recalled, for not doing what they were told. Michael Bagnerick.
I agree. We are state citizens. My book, Good to be King, discusses this. It's in the chapter on Article 4 of the Constitution. But we were state citizens, and then the 14th Amendment created a corporate status of United States citizen, which is subject to the jurisdiction of Congress. So it's a lot of fraud, a lot of deceit, a lot of misdirection. But again, it's only a piece of paper. If government says that you're a 7-foot-tall purple rabbit, that doesn't make it true.
All right, I appreciate your call, Howard. Let's go ahead and talk to Ronnie in Illinois. Ronnie, go ahead.
Hey, it's good to talk to you guys. And according to the 14th Amendment, getting into that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with James Bruden, author of Sins of the State. For any of the listeners out there, you can find that at sinsofthestate.net. He gets in and exposes how in 1862 they redefined the word person.
Yeah, it made us wards of a federal government. Yes, Bagnerick has written about this. His book's available at constitutionpreservation.org.
Right, but I mean, it sounds like you guys are almost poo-pooing the idea that you have to withdraw your consent. I mean, you really do have to tell these people who you are, and there is a...
No, Bagnerick's not saying that. He's saying this is a lawless group of criminals. We're here... Look, I've been doing this for 17 years on air for 15. I've probably done 200 programs on the 14th Amendment. I just suddenly have people telling me about it like I just found it yesterday. And all Michael Bagnerick is saying is, just like Aaron Russo said in his film, America, Freedom to Fascism, he said it's criminal. The IRS is a fraud. We didn't have it till 1913, but they're criminals. They'll come arrest you if you don't pay it. So Bagnerick is saying, you're right, this is true, but this patriot mythology, like Nasera and all these groups that say we're mailing letters to the government, everything's solved. I mean, did George Washington mail a letter to King George III? Was George Washington poo-pooing human liberty? No. I don't understand. I think you guys are picking a fight. Probably all buddies calling in. It's bizarre. We'll be back.